We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. Next up on the program, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome back to the program Jon Benjamin, author of the book.
It's a book.
Failure is an Option. Welcome to the program, Jon.
Thank you so much, Sam.
So, Jon.
Is it okay if I drink tea?
Sure.
The whole time?
Yes.
I mean, without, as in not talk, just drink tea.
As you know, Jon, your book, Failure is an Option,
Not so hot.
now out
can't
in paperback.
Yep.
Originally, it was written in a hardcover form. Prior to that, it was...
Hard, not hard.
And that hardcover came out, when was that, about a year ago?
I think, yeah, it was about a year ago.
And prior to that, it was written in the form of a sitcom script for AMC television that I had actually written.
No.
That was completely unrelated to the book, just coincidentally the name of your book.
Have you never heard the expression failure is not an option?
Well, I mean, prior to my writing a script about it...
Do you think anybody ever used the expression failure is an option prior to your use of it for your failed sitcom?
Well, prior to that, the only time I had seen it before then was in regards to an article that was written about me in the Boston Globe.
Before we resolve that.
Yeah.
I think that what you just said was it's complete fabrication and fallacy and not true. I didn't steal it from you.
I didn't say you stole it. It's interesting that you would say that you stole it because I didn't say that you stole it.
I'm not here to be prosecuted for a crime I didn't commit, and I don't like your tone, and I think it's not fair. And if I thought you were this was going to be a friendly, proper interview
I started
by
it that way.
A proper podcast on a proper set with proper microphones, and right now I feel like I am being attacked, and I don't need to participate in this type of discourse. So thank you very much, and I'm not leaving.
No,
but
I understand.
Thank you so much.
And
so we are not done.
Very welcome. Let's talk about this book. Failure is an Option.
Yeah.
Now,
You're in the book.
Well, that was going to actually going to come up because we had you on the program, and by we, really,
the
consortium had you on this program. I don't know when it was. Maybe it was a year ago. Maybe it was
probably when the book came out.
The hardcover version of the book came out.
Right.
And I will concede that I had not read it yet because.
I assume, like most of the guests you have on, you don't do proper preparation.
Well, in your instance, I was not in any way found the material compelling enough.
When is the last time you had a guest on that wrote a book where you read the book? The whole book?
Ooh.
I mean, you don't have to read a whole book cover to cover to conduct an interview. I'll grant you that, but you probably should skim.
Well, I didn't. I'm going to concede now that I didn't even skim your book. I didn't even see the title. Frankly, I just read it off of a piece of paper that somebody gave me. Subsequent to that, after the interview, I accidentally listened to it. Not by my own accord, but I was with someone else who was driving in a car for an extended period of time. We listened to the book.
Who were you with?
Steve.
Steve.
Guy named Steve.
Is he a friend of yours, or is he a professional acquaintance?
Professional acquaintance.
Where did you meet Steve?
At a store.
You met him at a store?
Yeah.
You hadn't known him before?
No, I had not.
It was like a grocery store, or like a...
It was just a typical retail store.
Like a Home Depot or a
Sure.
Lowe's?
Very similar.
Did he work there?
Part-time.
But you didn't know that at the time?
No.
He wasn't wearing like a vest that said, Steve, Home Depot.
He actually had a name tag.
He did?
Yeah.
It
was not, if I remember correctly, it was not pegged to any type of specific outlet. Mm-hmm. All right, but that's not the point. The point is I listened to your book, And I found it interesting. A lot of the things actually sounded very familiar to me.
I bet we've shared a lot of stories.
There was a lot of stories in there that I recognized. In fact, there were a lot of stories that I was a part of. But oddly, my name only came up once in a very ancillary way. But there was at least 2 or 3 stories where I was literally the other person involved that you did not mention my name.
I think probably you're referring to the one where the kid...
I'm referring to multiple aspects of the book.
Okay. I'll tell you the one that I assume you're referring to. The kid who tried to beat me up for a year.
Well, that I don't really remember that story.
In junior high school. The bully.
The bully.
Maybe I referred to him as the bully or the asshole. Or the fat kid.
Right, that's possible.
I didn't name you by name, but I think like any number one of those, yeah.
Well, let's go through some of these chapters because off the top of my head,
and then the other one would be the Midnight Pajama Jam story.
Well, okay, all right. So I'm glad.
Were you named?
Yeah, exactly. I was named in the Midnight Pajama Jam for a performance piece that I did with my calves.
Yes, but I mentioned you. Like, I have to say, I'll give myself a ton of credit for mentioning you in a good light, whereas I did not mention you in any of the other stories, which would have painted you in a bad light because you would have been the one in the story that was always mean to me.
That's interesting that you say that because I'd like to go through, and I don't understand how you did these chapter titles. They seem completely unhelpful in terms of how I failed at pretty much everything as a kid. I just don't have the right thing here.
So you're reading it wrong. But then you showed a good example of how you were to me always just now.
Well, I guess my point is that, wow, there's a lot of failures in option books. Boy, you really... I'm looking this up here, and it's unbelievable. There's one written by Philip Van Son.
Philip Van Son.
There's another one about mission control. Oh no, that's failures. Not mission.
That would be problematic, right. But that's probably true, right?
Well, I mean, for instance, the story of the script you wrote,
space program,
the script you wrote with your friend.
Oh yeah.
That was a great story.
Yeah, that was a good story.
Yeah, that was a great story.
But you were only like peripherally involved.
I was the co-writer of the script.
That's true. You probably helped. I probably did most of it.
I think I pitched it and went...
It was my idea. You were against it.
No, it was my idea.
No.
I specifically know where I got that idea.
No.
It was from going down with Mark Morris to his grandmother's house in Boynton Beach.
Oh, the show might have been your idea. But the story was my idea.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
The story was your idea, but I was there the entire time. Why don't you tell people just briefly what we're talking about?
The summary of the story was that you probably got a script deal to write a sitcom script. I don't think you came up with the idea.
No, I did come up with the idea, but I think we probably pitched it together.
Okay. Which was a story about...
Conan O'Brien's company.
Yep. Was about 2 young guys who... down in their luck, right? Unemployed friends who
go visit their grandmother or one of their grandmothers,
and then decide that they could live cheaply in the gated community in which their grandmother lived.
The retirement home, right? Early retirement, I think is what we called it. And then
after that, shows I think have been made.
Oh, of course,
a show has been made with that premise.
Of course.
And the story in my book was you and I.
Well. Not you and I. The story is you,
my friend,
and some nameless person.
And I.
Right.
My friend and
Subject
I went.
A, right? Or something.
My friend and I went down to Florida.
Right.
To my brother-in-law's father and mother's gated community.
Right. It's interesting to me that you get so specific about brother-in-law Because that's a specific person, as opposed to the way that I was addressed in that, which is just like
Friend.
Another guy,
No.
random
friend.
guy.
Did I say friend?
Maybe.
Well, pull it up.
Okay, I
I bet it says like.
Who knows?
It doesn't say like a guy
We'll
and
pull
I
it up.
went.
All
It
right,
does
but
not
good.
say a guy and I went to Florida together.
All right, well, fair enough. Keep going with the story.
It probably says a friend, which
Okay.
is probably a proper terminology, just like a
I mean,
brother-in-law.
it really wasn't just. I wasn't going as a friend. It was a professional. The whole story is about a professional story, right? It's like you were commissioned. It wasn't like you were commissioned to do a script and you brought along a friend.
It was. I probably said my friend and I were writing a script. I just didn't name you.
Right. And then what happened?
What happened in the story?
Well, maybe it was very just peripheral that I was involved in it. But go ahead. Let's see what the rest of the
So
story.
then the story was we went down, and when we met the parents, my friend and I, when we met them, I had an idea that I proposed to my friend because my brother-in-law's father, nice Jewish man, was telling us stories about how he wrote the annual play that was put on by the community.
Yeah.
And they were like musicals or parodies, like, I'm trying to think of what they were. They were
It's like-
literal examples.
Yeah.
It was like Jewish jokes,
Right.
place pun in that. Like,
I'm trying to think of something from like Oklahoma or something like that. Like, oh.
Well,
Right.
they would be, you're right, yeah.
Right.
It would be like
Something to that
matzo
effect.
ball
Right.
soup.
Matzo ball soup and right.
Guys and matzo ball soup.
Right,
instead of
exactly.
dolls.
Right.
Yeah, it's not
Right.
a good example. All right, so he when I think we were out to a Chinese
Annie
food.
would have been like Franny or something like that. But anyways, good.
There's examples in the book. I think
Right.
I remember because he sent them to me.
To us.
I have his work. Like
Right.
he's passed away, and I have his place.
No, I know.
So
I was
we
there.
went out to eat with him at a Chinese food buffet, and I think proposed the idea at the buffet.
I remember
with
that.
you, saying we should, instead of writing it ourselves, pay out of a portion of our money the brother-in-law's father, to write the whole script.
And then turn it in.
And then turn it in
As
as
a joke.
our work.
But as a joke.
Yeah,
I mean, because we went on to write the script.
we did.
Right.
Well, we wrote after he wrote it.
Well, we wrote it simultaneously. We handed in the,
Oh, did we?
yes.
I forgot that in the story.
Well, yeah. You also forgot to mention
I remember
that
the friend.
I was the other guy.
remember the friend.
Right.
Yeah, it was you.
Just general friend.
It was you.
I mean, it's just weird to read these stories.
And then
which-
you recorded the phone call we had with David Kissinger,
That's right.
the son of Henry Kissinger.
That's
who's,
correct.
Head of Conan O'Brien's production company, who had to give us notes on that old Jewish man's
And A.J.
script.
Morowitz, I think.
And
And
A.J.
I just remember them saying, we feel like you wrote what you thought would be funny to us. And what we want is you to write what you think is funny to you. And we were like, really?
And it was like 65 or 70 pages. I remember. And 12
It's
12
supposed to be like
12 pages of
45
it.
pages.
12 pages of it was pulled, like, I think directly from a Yiddish joke book. So he wrote, like, that was in the book, in the story as well. He wrote, like,
No, there was incredible detail.
right. It was like all the
Put into
characters
the
in a
story.
room, and then like Harold enters, and then a
Right.
joke book joke
Right.
by one character. Then next character, Stuart, joke book joke.
Right. I mean, it was amazing to me that you could actually name the characters in the script that he wrote, but not the other guy
Those
who
were
was
made up.
involved in the story.
I'm just assuming Harold and Stuart. Those were not the characters. I'm sure.
Well,
it was
I
like-
understand, but
sure
my
it was
point
like
being that
Morty
that was-
and
I mean, it was just weird to hear that as I'm with Steve
Mm-hmm.
in the car and have to go, oh, that's me. And he's like,
where
"What?"
where were you and Steve going?
Driving somewhere. I don't remember. Probably a long trip.
How do you? So you often travel with him?
No, that was it. That was the last time. It was so uncomfortable when I had to say like, oh, and that's me.
So you listened to my book on tape with Steve?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. It was awkward. It was just awkward. And I just thought,
what did Steve say? Because
he said, this is awkward. I don't,
why
how would I
Steve
know?
say that was awkward? Wouldn't Steve
Well, because I keep
like,
saying, he said, well, I don't understand. Why
so I assume you were like, this is me. That story, that's me. I'm not even named.
I didn't get that exercised until
And then
like
what
the
would Steve
third or
say?
fourth.
Why was Steve mad?
Hold
Wouldn't
on
he be
for 1
like,
second.
why are you so worked up?
You going to let me answer your question?
Well, if I was Steve, I'd be like, I'm driving. I can't, like...
Well, what makes you think Steve
And
was
you're
driving?
like, what the fuck?
Wait.
This story's about me. I'm in this story and not even named.
Okay, you got to turn. You just got to. First of all,
And then Steve's trying to drive.
listen, who said Steve was driving?
You said you were on a trip with Steve driving.
I didn't say he was driving.
You were driving.
We switched off because, frankly, by the third or fourth time in the book, when that happened in separate stories, other stories, I became a little distressed. Yes, and by the time the Midnight Pajama Jam came along,
Where you were named.
where I mentioned for like as a like it's a subsidiary, it's a completely like why in that story you could have just said, oh, and there was some guy who had calves, as opposed to in the story where I'm there in like the entire thing.
I mean, it would have been awkward, I guess.
So, well, Steve said this is awkward because why would he name you in that one, but not these other ones? And then that's the last time that Steve and I hung out.
So you mean, do you think that
But here is my question, John.
wait, let me... Do you think that Steve was taken aback by the way he reacted? Or do you think that
No.
you never talked because... I'm saying, do you think Steve felt like...
Steve thought I was lying.
No. I'm saying, do you feel like Steve felt like, I don't like this guy, or I don't like trust this guy. He's not the person I met at the store. And now he's like, all of a sudden we're listening to an audiobook and he's yelling about how I'm in it. And Steve was like, did you even tell him that you knew me
Steve,
before
by
you
the
put
end,
on my audiobook?
Steve, by the end, I didn't put on the audiobook.
Steve put it on.
Yeah.
That even makes it worse.
Well, it was super uncomfortable because
Yeah, because if I were Steve,
well, Steve was like, this doesn't make sense. Why would he name you here and not the other places? I think you're lying about the other places. That's my whole point. John, here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
The paperback is out.
Mm-hmm.
Did you correct that?
Did I correct? Did I name like?
Yes. Did you go back, realize that it was a mistake, and fix it?
No, not in the way that you assume. I did redact your name from the Midnight Pajama Jam story. So I took out the one mention of you that was in the book because I felt like, I don't know, maybe you were right when you were with Steve, but I didn't even know it. I just took out your name out of spite because I didn't even want you mentioned.
Well, I think in many respects that would have been easier to deal with. Because then he probably would have been like, oh, well, that guy's not going to mention you anywhere. That's weird. He's a weird guy. As opposed to like, I don't know if I believe you. Why would he mention you here and not in the other places?
Well, I mean, all I can tell you is that you're probably going to really enjoy my next book, which is entitled Sam Seder is a Complete Asshole.
Really? That's you. So that was my next question. What's next for you?
Well, there you go. I mean, there will be tons of stories about you and who you are and how I know you as a person.
You already wrote them. You wrote them in the first book. You just didn't name me. So you're just going to basically rewrite
maybe
the
some
same.
of the stories will be repeated with you named.
All right. Fair enough. Now, let me ask you this, John.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have asked this question. Have you gotten in trouble for some of the things that you revealed in that book? Have any of the people, some of whom I do know, Have they in any way come back to you and said, hey,
Like legally.
well, legally or
There's
even
nothing
socially?
really in the book that I was worried about.
Well, I mean, at one point you...
I was a little bit worried about a couple of things.
What were the things you were worried about?
There was a story about a threesome.
I remember that story.
I didn't want to mention who was in it.
I know.
I mean, I was in it.
Right?
You were actually a part of that story, too, and I did not name you.
You did not.
You were not in the threesome.
I was not in the threesome. I do remember
You were almost as much in the threesome as I was, to the extent that I think I came and told you about it.
Do you think
during it?
The funnier, I do remember you actually.
I left the threesome to tell you that I'm in the middle of a threesome right now.
I do remember going like, what?
Well, for people listening or watching, that the college we went to was pretty small.
Yes.
So you could have a threesome in one dorm and quickly run across the quad.
Again, it could still be going on.
Alert your friend and come back.
Yeah.
And continue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Particularly based upon.
Which is actually what happened.
Particularly based upon the amount of involvement that you had. But people haven't read this.
It's
much better just to watch your appearance on Colbert to talk about it.
That's
the
true.
Actual writing of the book.
And most people who read the book said the same thing.
Said the Colbert.
Said just like I bought the book based on the Colbert appearance, and then I was like, oh, I didn't really like their book.
No, people
like the
did
appearance
not say
was
that.
really good.
People did not say that.
Oh, some people did.
What do you prefer? Do you prefer writing it or voicing it?
The book?
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy writing it, but voicing it was not that fun either. So, it's hard to read your own stuff if you don't like it.
Right.
And there was no way out of. I tried to get out of reading it, I think, but it made no sense because I'm predominantly known for what I read, or reading aloud.
What do you mean?
Like for my voice work.
What?
Oh, I'll tell you about it later.
It sounds like something that you would have pitched to them to have hired someone else to pretend they were you reading it. That would have been really
I think
obvious.
I pitched a couple ideas, like an old lady or
right.
a 7-year-old or something. Yeah.
I'm almost shocked.
And I think it probably got down to it's in your contract that you have to read it because it's the only reason we hired you to write it.
I can't help but think that you probably
we didn't even care what you wrote. It's just you just read whatever you want. Now, it could have been nonsense, and it might have been better.
Well, let's talk about your voice work, John. Mm-hmm. My understanding is that there is a Bob. For those people who don't know, you are the voice of Archer on the program Archer.
Yep.
You're also the voice of Bob
on the program
Bob's Burgers,
which you're on.
On occasion.
Yeah.
My understanding is that there is a movie that has been announced. It'll be released in 2020. Am I a part of that?
I mean, I haven't heard your name brought up yet. As far as casting goes, it's not really my purview. I assume you could do what you normally would do and inappropriately reach out to people.
Well, I think that's in part what I'm doing now, isn't it?
Yeah. And force yourself on them in the way that you sometimes do for a lot of things.
Well, I feel like that's what I'm doing at this moment.
You want me to reach out for you?
Well, I'm reaching out to you to put some pressure on. I mean, the idea that the star of the show
I would think
would have no influence on bringing back an extremely popular character who was in the pilot episode. It's almost hard to believe.
No, I mean, I'm not saying I don't have a lot of influence in casting decisions. I probably, if I wanted to, I could probably go directly to the creator of the show and bring up your name.
Right.
And say, remember that character from season 1 or whatever.
Well, it wasn't just season 1. I think you'll find it was not just in season 1.
Yeah, and I could definitely do that, and I have done that with other people. like frequently have said like, oh, you should hire. And in on every occasion where I have done that, it has happened.
Good.
Yeah. I just don't know whether I'm going to do that yet.
All right. Fair enough. Let me ask you this, John. You've been on Archer for what now? 8 years? 9 years?
I did just think about it, and no, I'm not going to do that.
All right.
I don't think I'm going to contact the creator about that.
Well, you know what? You don't need to make a decision right now.
Well,
So you can just think about it a little bit more.
okay. I mean, I think I just did, but I think I.
You thought about it, but I'm saying you could think about
Sure,
it
of course
more.
I could rethink it.
I'm not saying rethink it. I would just say don't even complete the...
No, like I said, you brought it up. I thought about it. I said I declined, and then you said rethink it, and I.
Well, let's just
I'll
table
think it.
that for now, shelve that, come back to it later at a different time then.
I mean, that would be a big opportunity for you to
I mean, it probably would. It probably would. John, you've been on Archer now for how long?
10 years.
10 years. And how long have you been on Bob's Burgers?
About 10 years, I think.
Are you going to do anything new or anything that's in any way challenging? I mean, just as a
I don't know. Would you like?
theoretically,
Would
as
you
a
like?
excuse me. Let me finish my question. As an actor, as an artist, do you ever feel like I'm just resting on my laurels because I've been doing the same thing for so long, and I just show up and talk into a microphone and
It seems somewhat ironic based on you being here, but
what do you mean?
let me ask what you're doing. But I don't know. Like I would say no. I still enjoy it as much as I did at the very beginning, and
So no new challenges.
I don't know
just
whether I wouldn't know whether
go
you
through the
would you
motions.
go up to like President Barack Obama in year 7 and say, "Do you still enjoy doing this thing that you're doing?
I think that's a valid
Are
question.
you gonna maybe just stop now?"
Well, I mean, he has 2 terms. You've actually gone beyond that.
Well,
And I'm
there's
just
no
asking, as
term
an
in what
artist-
I do, but
as
you
an artist-
understand the analogy.
As an artist, do you miss having anything that's challenging or new or
Would you
fresh?
go approach Pablo Picasso and say, like, "Are you still going to do the painting thing
Well, I think Picasso
or the sculpture
actually
thing that you're doing, or
would challenge
maybe you
himself.
want to
That's
make
why I
a
asked.
movie, or branch out, or do something else?"
Well, I mean, even just do a different character. I mean, for God's sakes.
Well, I play several characters on the show.
Well, there's no reason to get defensive about it.
I'm fine. I'm fine. I mean, I did rethink that thing we were talking about earlier
Which-
again, and I'm going to actually double down and say that no, definitely not going to contact the creator of the show to help you out.
Well, like I say, we have a lot of time, John. You don't need to.
Well, that's
do
like
that.
twice now that I've rethought it, and I feel like that's like probably like
Is
that would be the
failure is an option. Is that available widely, or is it just being put out in a narrow situation?
I don't know much about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's in Barnes and Noble. Are you familiar?
I didn't. To be honest with you, I did not know that they were still around.
They are.
Okay.
They're still brick and mortar, Barnes and Nobles, I believe. I bet you can get it online on Amazon
Interesting.
or one of your an Audible,
Mm-hmm.
the book version.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where else you can get it.
John, why no YouTube channel for you? You have a lot of YouTube videos around. I went back the other day and I watched baby pranks.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's still on YouTube.
it's still on YouTube. I don't think you.
Well, I would be like, I would have to like make new content, and that's I'm on it.
I guess that was sort of my point.
Well, I'm like, I would say one day every 2 weeks doing the Bob character. I am also one day every 2 months doing the Archer character.
And that must get exhausting.
So where do you fit in time to do a YouTube channel?
Right.
I mean, it's something that you told me to do a long time ago. I never did it.
Right.
But all those videos are very old, and I haven't necessarily made new ones.
They're all in 4x3.
Really?
Yeah.
You can thank Bill Buckendorf.
Well, I mean, who knew where things were going?
What is the new format?
The new format is 3x5, basically, or what is the new format? 7 by I can't remember. 6 by 8 by I don't know. 8 by 10s.
I mean, like, what would I do?
12 by
honestly, what would I do? Like, a YouTube channel would have to be like what YouTube is now, which is like what you do. You know, just like filler.
Right.
Well, like just as someone talking for an hour. That's like what my kid watches.
Okay.
I mean, I could do that. I could like play a video game.
Well, there's a lot of people who do that.
Mm-hmm.
Matt wants to do that.
You do that.
I'm looking to get into it in the future.
As in, like, shoot yourself in an inset box playing a video game.
Yep.
Yeah. My kid would watch you.
Yeah.
It's great. Anything else interesting, John, going on with you?
Is there a park around here that has a rhinoceros sculpture?
Maybe.
I heard there was.
It's interesting. Interesting question. Anything else? Live performances where people can see you? Is there a web? You don't even have a website, do you?
No. What do you mean? I have a job. I mean, I have a job. I don't need a website. I have a job.
Well, do you perform live? Is there places people can see you live?
Do you go to your postman and say, like, you have a website?
A lot of postmen do.
Do you go to your the guy in your building, the super, and say, like, do you have a website I can take a look at?
Well, I mean,
he has a job. He's doing something.
I talk to a lot of performers and comedian types.
Mm-hmm.
They all have websites, John.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it just because you said so, and I'm not doing it just because they do.
All right. Well, there you have it. Jon Benjamin, stuck in the past, ladies and gentlemen, refusing to move into the future. Nevertheless, they put out a paperback book and an audio version. I imagine there's a Kindle version. Does that bother you?
Why? Oh, because it's technology. It's
like
advanced technology.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy reading on a Kindle. I mean, I don't have a Kindle, but I don't enjoy reading on my phone or my computer, if that's what you're getting at.
No. So failure is an option.
Mm-hmm.
They re-released it. Does in that way cut against a little bit about the premise of the book, John? Lastly?
I mean, I'm not sure it's a total success, but they did make it a paperback.
So perhaps a sequel. Moderate success is also an option. That's just a...
Success is not an option?
No, moderate success is an option.
Right. Or success is an option.
Or success is an option.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, feel free to take that. It's not like you needed my permission anyways.
Well, feel free to re-pitch that show that didn't go, that you still probably have, called Failure is an Option, because they passed on it.
Well,
so feel free to try and
did not
resell
go
it
into
again.
Comedy. That's not my fault.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't foresee you being on Bob's Burgers anytime soon.
Great. Well, I've got a lot of other things to do. In fact, we're going to have to move on with this show. So,
thanks for having me.
see yourself out.
Do I have to leave right now? I can't get up because I went poo-poo in my pants.
Quick break. We'll be right back after this.